And earlier, we spoke with Dr. John Sfakianakis, Chief Economist at the Gulf Research Center, on how India can prepare for the next disruption as global supply chains face mounting stress. Listen in.
India's priority should be to compel the allies and compel Iran to come to the table, because this is not just unacceptable, but it's not something condoned by the world economy. If we continue to see this closure, we will have certain difficulties that India will face. Having said this, also India has alternatives, which is that there are other markets that it could source oil, which it has been doing over the last several weeks, if not 3 months. So it is not the only alternative, the Gulf. It can source oil from markets that it has taken, which is predominantly Russia. Russia has been a very big contributor to India's crude oil since 2020, in fact. And more recently, we've seen just today that 4 Indian companies have been taken off the list of US sanctions. So that is a boon, that is a positive for India's ability to diversify its sources of crude oil.
Dr. Sfakianakis, let's also talk about the cost of deterrence here, because after the recent conflict, Iran now, in fact, knows that closing Hormuz completely, it would also hurt its own economy. So is the new strategy now to create just enough uncertainty in order to raise the geopolitical cost for its rivals without actually stopping the flow of oil?
So I think the geopolitical uncertainty has subsided quite a lot over the last several weeks. You've seen that oil prices have gone from $90 a barrel to now $70, $71 a barrel. And that has been done because of President Trump's ability to find a medium, which is an MOU, but nothing has been agreed. So single-handedly, President Trump has managed to bring down the price of oil. And that is something that we need to recognize in President Trump's ability. Secondly, we need to see that the markets have already priced in that the strait will eventually open up. And some product has gone through, but now there are more difficulties unfolding. But the market is not really listening a lot to what is happening, the noise between the US and Iran. It seems that they're very, very relaxed about the risks that are unfolding. Do I think that this is a mispriced risk? Yes. Oil should be a little bit higher compared to what it is today, given the uncertainty, but the markets are not really concerned. I think that's important to note, that markets are not so concerned about the ability or inability of Iran and the US to come to the table or agree to the next steps, which are quite substantial. I think they will take some time. On the issue of tolls, I think that Iran needs to come to the table. I need to also emphasize that the freedom of navigation was assured previously, pre-war, by everybody. There wasn't an issue, a concern about a toll fee being levied. So I think nobody, including the Gulf countries and the US, is going to agree to a toll fee being levied. Now, if countries choose to go to the Iranian side and pay the toll, that's very fine. And that, I think, is something that each and every shipping company has the right to do. But the US and the Gulf countries will not accept it. The issue is, to what degree will Iran allow ships to go through the center point of navigation of the Strait of Hormuz and close to the Omani shorelines without attacking? And that is the issue of concern. And this is what Iran is trying to do since last Thursday, when they attacked completely unjustified a cargo ship that was trying to go through the Omani side of the Strait of Hormuz.
This conflict has also showed us that military escalation has limits. My question is, Dr. Sfakianakis, is economic leverage becoming more important than military leverage? And has Iran identified this?
Well, definitely. And I think everybody has identified this factor, even in the case of President Trump, who some days ago said that one of the compelling issues that acted as a pressure point for him to decide to bring a close to the war and the attacks from the American side was concerns about the global economic situation. So the Americans are very concerned that this war could continue forever, and President Trump in particular being quite aware of the consequences to the global economy, but Iran as well. The Iranian economy is in shambles. Iran is facing a crisis, 2 million unemployed, 50% inflation, depreciating currency every day by the day. Infrastructure has been destroyed, more damage. Around 300 to 300 billion dollars of damage has been incurred on Iran. And of course, the issue of sanctions being lifted, the issue of the frozen assets that Iran has to the tune of 40 to 60 billion, a lot of it is in China, some of it is in the Gulf, is a big concern. And then the so-called $300 billion that Iran has been floating as an idea to resuscitate the Iranian economy is somewhere there as well. So I think both parties have come to the table thinking that there are severe economic consequences, but always a war has an economic angle to it, be it in this war, be it in other wars. Of course, there's a huge toll that is being paid by both countries and by all contributors to the war, be it this or other wars.
Yeah, Dr. Sfakianakis, a final word from you. Is this about Hormuz alone, or are we witnessing a broader shift where control over critical choke points, it is actually becoming one of the defining features of the new global order, sir?
You know, if let's say the world agrees, the US and the Gulf countries, but also the allies to this, which are the silent observers of the war, Europe predominantly, but also China, if everybody agrees to a toll fee, that will create a precedent, not only just under international law, especially law of the sea and the safe passage of navigation, but also for other choke points, be it in the Straits of Malacca or the Straits of Taiwan and so forth. So if we agree that, you know, there is a toll fee, other points of importance are going to create a precedence, and that is going to add pressure, political pressure. So that will be quite of a different situation. So I think we need to push hard and not see the strait being used by Iran. Pre-war, Iran had no say whatsoever to a toll being imposed. So now I think bringing back Iran into the fold by empowering them to have a toll fee is something completely unacceptable. And I think we need to continue to observe this situation quite closely.
All right, Dr. John Sfakianakis, thank you very much for speaking with our team here, sir.